find any health and safety issues. Okay, so that's exactly, this is the point that we're making. So, now I think we'll open it to questions. And you're anxious for the questions, right? Yeah, okay, we'll get to them.
Has Cahill made any financial donations to the government body who approved this waste-to-energy facility? Excuse me? Being built in Barbados.
The question is, am I clear on the question? You're asking me, did we make any financial contributions?
Political donations is, I think, what they're getting at.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Excuse me? Please don't do that.
We really do have to try and be respectful, okay, and professional. We gave absolutely nothing to the government.
Okay, thank you. Use the king grass when we cannot even sustain a viable sugar crop here on the island. You couldn't hear me? I'll repeat it. Sorry, the panelists couldn't hear me. I'm just going to repeat the question. How do you plan to use the king grass when we cannot even sustain a viable sugar crop on the island?
Actually, king grass, if you recall way back when we were using corn and maize, that wasn't a healthy thing for us to do. King grass is approved by the United Nations, and one of the benefits of king grass is that when you plant it in the soil, instead of taking nutrients out of the soil, it refurbishes the soil. That answers your... Actually, another good way of saying it is we're growing king grass already. We have several acres of it growing on the island, and it's thriving. Do you know where the farm is? I don't...
Sorry, excuse me. I understand that you're passionate about this, and I respect that, but we're going to go through the questions one by one, and then we're going to, if you have an additional question, I encourage you to write it down, please. Go ahead, please, Andrew.
Can I think I understand your question, so I think I'll try to answer it, but the question was, how can you grow 3,000 acres of king grass when we can't even get sugar cane grown? I think, is that what the question was? Right. But the two, respectfully, the two are not related. Sugar cane is grown to produce sugar. What is wrong with growing king grass to produce biomass to make electricity? The two are not related. I'm sorry. Well, yes. Yeah, there's a grass. Yeah. But they're two separate, distinct things. And then the logic behind the king grass is that we have many farms who have tractors, equipment, harvesters, etc., who have skills in growing. King grass looks like cane, and therefore the skills are there. And if you can get 3,000 acres producing king grass, that's good for the farmers. If somebody's going to buy it from them, it's good for the farmers. It's as simple as that. But it is not intended to have any competition with cane at all. It's a separate, distinct operation, king grass. And they're actually growing, there's 2.5 acres being grown in St. Philip already as a trial plot.
Not for you.
Sorry?
They're not for Cahill, they're for someone else.
Yes, but no, I'm just saying, I happen to know that they're growing 2.5 acres of it. I'm not saying who it's for, but a trial plot is being grown already.
Idea for a small island such as Barbados to be importing large quantities of garbage.
Again, that's mythology. We are not importing waste onto the island. Nobody wants to do that. I understand that. We have no intention of doing that. This is another thing about the mythology that we want to address. We're not importing waste. There's enough waste.
Mohammed, this is a question for you. How does this plant remove the negative effects of leachate?
This is the negative effects of leaching from landfills?
It just says, how does this plant, I guess...
So it's probably, leaching typically happens in landfills. And if you decrease the use or can scale back the production of new landfills, inherently you would reduce the risk of leaching that happens from landfills that tend to, even sealed landfills, do have leaks, and this plant would alleviate that.
I'm going to ask you another question, Mohammed. What exactly are the byproducts of the plant, and how are these byproducts managed in order to prevent negative environmental or ecological impacts?
The byproducts of plasma gasification, so your number one product is your electricity. Your byproducts, which I'm probably going to be getting Kerry to talk about since he's our process person, but you do have air emissions, and you do have, because of the fact of the way the process works, you're going to have air emissions. That will include CO2. It will include, where's the exact table, but it's got some NOx. Well, dioxin and furan, I'm glad you asked that, is going to be less than what you currently are breathing in your air from the bunker C fuel. It's going to be less. I'm glad, I think this forum is supposed to be for data, so I was actually trying to calculate that emission on a per ton and per megawatt hour. Bunker fuel, right now, the amount of dioxin, furan, arsenic, bunker C also has mercury. It's what's coming out of that stack right now is far worse. The data I can provide through the channels here when I get back to my desk, but that's the data that it should be very readily available. It sounds you guys are more intelligent than I am in researching this. Type in bunker C fuel.
But you don't have an operating facility.
Excuse me, sorry. We're going to keep the rules the same for everybody.
Well, the other thing is, what I should mention is the World Health Organization, which is the WHO, sets certain standards, and they do a lot of research in determining what is considered safe and what is considered air emissions that human health, without impacting human health. Now, these standards, I understand, are always in progress. They're always being reformed, but there's a lot of scientists that do a lot of work. In the space that I'm in as an environmental person, I'm an environmental purist, and those standards are the only things I can go on when I have to make decisions. So those are some of the constraints that I follow. And these plants, the emissions that are coming from here, are significantly less. Now, these are estimated emissions, as I think the gentleman's saying, there's no plant. Now, I think the concept here is, at least every project I've done, you start with estimated emissions, and you start going through the actual monitoring, and as soon as you exceed one of those things, you actually are hit with a penalty in every part of the world, and I assume it's the same here as well. You don't get hit with a penalty if you go over emissions? Wow. So you can pollute. Really? And have no repercussion. So now, if a company decided to disclose their emissions on a periodic basis, on a regular basis, and if you had a community monitoring program, would that be something any company does here? See, I was going to say an example, personal example, where I'm from in Canada. In northern parts of Canada, we have an Aboriginal population. And in those areas, when I go there with some of the other type of projects I'm involved in, they want to know what these are some mega projects that are coming in, and they want to know what they. Sorry, I know. Claire's gonna rant. Anyway, the point is that there are programs you can set up, which is called a community monitoring program, where you can actually set up a committee to actually follow the monitoring from the beginning to the end.